everyone. I'm Sam McBriar and I'm a Maritime Skills Commissioner, and I also work for Thales UK as the Maritime Strategy Director. I've been asked by SMI today to give a short talk about the future demand for skills, looking particularly at the impact of net zero technologies. And I'm recording this today because I can't be at the conference because I'm having to isolate. So I hope you're all having a great time and I can be there in person next year. In terms of the next 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes or so, I'm going to run through the talk, which will take place in a few sections. So I'll talk about the Commission's work and my role within it. And as I go through the presentation, you'll see there's a number of questions that arise around whether we need new skills or is this about transferring skills to new problems. I'll cover a couple of technology areas that I think are particularly important and look at how we can learn between the sectors for environmental benefit. And then I'll look at the proposition that we have in the maritime sector and how that's really powerful in terms of appealing to people, either to attract them into the sector or to retain them in that sector for a long and varied career. So moving on to the Maritime Skills Commission, it was set up in July 2020 to lead the sector's work in making sure that the sector has a pipeline of talented people to serve every part of the sector. So including but not limited to shipping, ports, leisure marine, engineering, science and professional services. The Commission is chaired by Professor Graham Baldwin, and we are responsible to jointly to the Department for Transport through the Maritime Minister and to Maritime UK. And there are 16 or so commissioners at the moment from a real varied background. So we've got people from ports, from shipping companies, government and government agencies, from law, and some prominent HR leaders and educational specialists. I was asked to join the Commission to represent the defence and security sector, and I've worked in that sector for over 20 years. But I also have a technical background and a strategy role. So it was seen as interesting to bring that experience into the work of the Commission. Not having a strategic skills background necessarily, I also saw it as an opportunity to develop that and to work on the STEM agenda on a much broader basis across the whole sector. So in the tasking letter received from the Maritime Minister, we received our mission, if you like, and a scheme of work was developed to deliver on that. And you can see in the middle of the slide that we published our annual report in October last year. And in there you can see the progress that we've made and the things that are coming along in the pipeline. And actually in December, at our last meeting, we took a step back, looked at what we'd achieved, where some of the, we sort of mapped what we'd done against what we needed to achieve, and identified some gaps and some focus areas for the sort of developing scheme of work into the future. And that's where we have focused on the net zero skills challenges and how we weave them in to that scheme of work. The deliverables are all in that report, but just to highlight some of the achievements, we published a labour market report. There was a comprehensive review into seafarer cadet training. And there's a piece of work on future ports workforce, which is ongoing, I believe. And also we've completed a piece of work about maritime careers ashore. So it's a good point to sort of reflect and look at the challenges that are coming, and net zero is clearly one of those, and I'm going to go into that shortly. Before I do, I just wanted to highlight the particular objectives of the Maritime Skills Commission, because you can see that net zero challenges are considerations for all these areas. So we've got the technological change, we've got the sort of educational provision, if you like, and the training provision, and then the career paths in terms of how do we need people to move around to adapt, and to retrain to meet these very significant challenges. Also, in the objectives, we have the objective to help promote a career in maritime, and the proposition there is really, really strong. So I'll move on now to some net zero considerations. Firstly, I'd just like to highlight that the Skills Commission ran and led a Green Skills Forum at COP26 last year. And that was a real opportunity to start gathering some evidence for the Commission to help us define what green skills means for different parts of the sectors. And if you are able to watch that recording, it's available on the Maritime UK website. You'll hear from some leaders in our industry and some thought leadership around this topic. And it's really going to inform further work to create a position paper in the coming months from the Commission. But I just want to move on some future demand considerations now, and two technologies I want to highlight are fuels and autonomy. Both of these are real levers into making our industry massively more efficient. It will mean a different balance on human and machine teaming, resulting in less carbon consumption. And this is really starting to happen now in terms of changes, but it really does mean an uncertain future is ahead of us, and we need to be prepared for a world that we don't know yet. The certainty is around the future requirement being much more demanding than it is now, so we very much need to take those first steps and find ways to accelerate. So focusing on fuels then, talking to colleagues in the Commission who are involved in shipping and fuels, the range of fuels that are going to offer advantages in net zero are quite wide, and they will have an impact in different timelines just by the nature of where they are and what we know about them and how we use them and how we incorporate them into our operations. What this means is that we have to back them all. We can't pick winners or losers at this stage. And that's quite challenging from an investment perspective, from an R&D perspective, and from an exploitation perspective as we move through that cycle. And we're having to do it perhaps a lot quicker with multiple things at once than we've ever done before. In doing this, it requires skills that we've always needed. So problem solving, bringing in ideas from other sectors, combining technical skills, business skills, and industrial skills together. And all of these skills are up for competition. Many sectors need them, and we will need to attract and work across the sectors to use those skills. Moving on to autonomy, it's something that I advise my company on and have become a sort of thought leader in this sense. But if we look at the spectrum of autonomy, automation's been around for a long time. It creates efficiencies on an incremental basis within products and systems. As we dial up the levels from automation to remote control and full autonomy, that's when we start seeing much higher levels of efficiency and step changes in the gains that we can make towards a net zero agenda, as we start to remove high carbon assets and logistics chains from our operations. We adjust the human and machine interface, that's necessary, and I'll talk about an example of that on the next slide. And the skills that we require to do this are leaning much more towards some of the data skills, data science and analytics, security in terms of trusting autonomous systems in our operations, human sciences as we move the balance of the way people operate and the way the machines operate, and legal skills as well. And always systems and software engineering comes up as skills that we're really going to need to solve some of these problems. I'm going to now move on to regulation because, as we know, it needs to keep pace with the technology to unlock the benefits. And at the moment, talking to the regulators on the Commission, we have known challenges, but no regulation to deal with them. The regulation that does exist has taken a long time to put in place. It's been based in safety critical industries, which are often slower to change and have a different risk appetite to other industries. The changes in the risk picture for owners and operators are really going to challenge us in terms of the skills that we need in the industry. And many of those skills don't exist in shipping at the moment. They exist in industrial environments, perhaps onshore in operations, those kind of things. If shipping companies don't have them, then the third parties and small companies that they rely on probably also don't have them too. So this ability to deal with the risk, to assess risk and to manage risk, and to put that leadership in place that's required is going to be really important for our sector going forward. I'll cover the supply impacts as I close the presentation. So we'll move on now to a case study. I think this is a really great example where we can sort of pause and think about applying current skills that we have in certain industries into other areas to solve a net zero challenge. So I think this is a really great example of innovation as well, and the sort of experimental approach that we need across multiple technologies to get the benefits that we're looking for on net zero. So this project MIMRI was funded by Innovate UK and led by the Offshore Renewables Catapult. Thales, my company, was involved in it. Also a diverse team, universities and small companies as well. And the purpose of the project was to drive the development of a robotic team of assets to inspect and repair wind farms. And one of the main aims of the project as well was really to try and get a pathway to scalability. So seeing autonomy as a major potential for this, in that you can have more assets, you can operate them more independently with less human intervention, and you can deal with the weather dependency and safety issues that you have in this kind of environment. The potential to decrease the cost of operations is huge if we can scale this kind of concept. So in this scenario, we were able to demonstrate a Thales autonomous mothership, which you can see in that top image at the bottom corner of it. This mothership was designed for mine hunting operations, so military operations, and it was installed with a system that can detect the blades of the wind farms, and they can do that while they're moving at huge speeds. And that technology comes from submarine periscopes and from armoured vehicle sighting systems. So that's a really interesting use of that technology in a new environment. The mothership then launches a specially configured drone, and that delivers another robot, which is a blade crawler, onto the structure to do the repair. So those are all the assets working together, but also the software that sits behind that. So that's the mission planning software that was developed from space exploration mission planning software. And also we've got the skills within the company around the mission planning for mine hunting. So we sort of put that together to allow the system to adapt to changes in the environment, etc., and replan. So a lot of artificial intelligence and machine learning needs within that kind of system. So I thought that was a really interesting one to show you net zero innovation in action and how we can learn from each other. So moving now to finish the proposition. So we've got loads of exciting problems to solve. And I think that means, despite the scarcity of skills and the competition for those skills, we have a great proposition for people in maritime, and we have one of the biggest contributions to make of all the sectors to real meaningful work for society. And this is so attractive for people now, particularly all we've been through in the last few years. In terms of preparing the pipeline then, it needs to be prepared for a very uncertain future. So education provision needs to be very flexible, and we need to be able to add modules onto courses, to share modules between organisations, to allow us to adapt those applications of those core STEM skills that we're all looking for. In terms of other crucial things that we need to invest in, leadership development is one of those. We need people that can come into this industry and develop in the confidence that they can adapt to change and that they can lead organisations through change to solve some of these significant problems. If we can promote this proposition, then I am convinced we will increase the diversity of our pipeline, because it will be attractive to more different types of people, and we will increase the numbers within that pipeline, and we will be competitive both domestically and internationally. The little image in this slide is an example of work that I did with the Department for International Trade recently on the investment proposition for marine autonomy in the southwest of the UK. Obviously, there's exciting proposition in terms of the industrial footprint there, but one of the main parts of the proposition was the skills. So the educational establishments in the southwest, the kind of courses that they offer, the quality of the people that they are creating and who are staying within that region is something that international investors are interested in. So I think there's definitely an opportunity to create new jobs, to create high value jobs, and to secure international investment into this sector through some of these net zero challenges. So in conclusion, my talk has started to look at delivering on the net zero challenge in our sector from the perspective of being a Maritime Skills Commissioner. I think we require different but transferable skills and more of them. There's the investment needs and the needs to do that quickly and create the pipeline and to be competitive domestically and internationally. It's really important that we understand our proposition is attractive and that we build on the foundations of that from an ESG perspective. And the Maritime Skills Commission are looking forward, and we're adapting the scheme of work to weave in green skills and the net zero challenge. So thank you for listening, and thanks to SMI for inviting me to talk about this. I hope the rest of the conference goes well for you. Bye.